Thank you for joining our session today. I'm joined with Diana, who is a software expert, and we're going to be talking about migrating the software databases today. We have a lot to go over. Some of the things that we want you to know before migrating of, maybe X, Y, and Z that you should know, so you can take that into the decision-making process, show you how to do it, and then also show you all the benefits that comes with that. And generally, we'll just talk about databases, setting them up, switching a database, what entails with that, and just you can ask us questions all along the way. While we wait a couple minutes for everyone to get started, why don't you let us know where you're calling in from? Looks like some of our regulars already know this. So excited to see you and here. I am calling in from Rochester, New York myself. How about you, Diana?
I am in Denver, Colorado. And JJ, I've never told you this, but you have a very specific voice. And so every now and then I'll read things about software and I will hear it in your voice.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment. Thank
Yes,
you. I
yes.
appreciate that. I have a quick poll for everyone today. We want to know what database you're using, if any, so far. Of course, any you probably are, but Airtable, SmartSuite, HubSpot, not listed. For those not listed, feel free to put your database in chat as well to let us know. We have people calling in from Philly, Germany, New York City. Hey, Doug, close by. Patrick's in South Carolina. Patrick is our community success leader. He is in chat helping us out today. We got some folks from Germany. Very cool. Long Island has arrived. Glad to see you here, Adam. Awesome. Armenia, welcome. Awesome. So it looks like mostly Airtable users. And we're going to, I guess we'll kind of talk about the agenda. So Diana and I will introduce ourselves quickly, and then we'll talk about before migrating the software databases, what are some of the things that you should be thinking about and include in your decision-making process? And then we'll actually show you how to migrate. We'll show you two different options, Airtable import, and then we'll show you how importing with CSV works and some of the limitations around that option right now. And then we'll also just open it up for questions, talk about the benefits and the pros that come with software databases, including speed and all that kind of stuff. I will say that before we get into this, since we have so many Airtable users, Airtable is currently working on being upgraded to our latest data source model. So for the longest time, we've had a data source model, which was really just caching API calls or just making those API calls, right? And so if you wanted to, update 100 things, we'd have to kind of, maybe make 100 API calls and sometimes, right? And that was inefficient and not as performance. And so our new data model system that we're integrating and will be adding to Airtable very soon is a unified data source caching model, which allows us to store your data in a temporary way on our servers, which means that when you need access to that data, we have it already ready available for you, and we don't need to go and hit that API call and bring it back. Now, that's really important because that increases performance, that allows us to standardize the data, and that's the way that we're building our future features is based on this model. By having that data available to us, it allows us to do so many more things. So for the Airtable users, I know that you can't use Ask AI yet, inline editing yet, and some of those other newer features. I will say that in the next week or two, that will change as Airtable is migrating over to the latest data source v2. So you'll be able to access all those latest features, and you'll also be able to see performance increases and everything, right? With that being said, Softr database is already set up for that. It's already set up for best preference, best performance, and utilizing all of this and more. So even when Airtable is set up to the latest DSV2, I'm interested to see what the speed difference is, but I still think there's going to be a speed difference with Softr databases, even after Airtable's improved, but still Airtable should see a very big improvement in the next 10 days or so. So I'm really excited about that, Diana.
Yeah, I think it's going to be super helpful. I was just looking at all of the chats here that Florian was asking about live sync. Excuse me. And I think it's been interesting as a no code developer. I've learned a lot about development and working in these spaces. And so even like some of the things you just said, JJ, and explaining that to clients about, like how the data gets from my knowledge, right? Not the developer's full knowledge, but how it gets from one place to another and helping them understand why things take time to load or why they don't sync. And so thanks for keeping us educated on that as well.
Yeah, and I would say that, some folks are saying, well, because you have your own database, does that mean you're not going to invest in the 15 others that you support? And that is not the way that we're approaching it. We have a ton of users using those 15 other databases, and we're still going to continue to invest in all of those other database connections. And by using this unified data source model, bringing all those other connections to this model allows us to have a investment that benefits all data sources. So we're going to continue to invest in all of our other connections in addition to Software databases. We want to build a great interface for you wherever your data is, whether it's on Software databases or anything else. We want that to be a great experience for you. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. I'll quickly introduce myself. If for those that don't know me already, I am Softr's community and education lead. I've been in the no code space since like 2019, and am really loving everything that we're doing here at Softr, especially this last year, going full stack with workflows coming soon as well. It's a great time to be building with Softr. And then I'm joined by Diana, our community Softr expert. Diana, why don't you say a couple things about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Diana. I run in my own agency called We Actualize. And I've actually been in the no code space since 2017, but way in the background of I was working for the state government at the time. So I've kicked around in no, nonprofits, small businesses, and things like that. I actually was remembering this morning the first time I ever heard about Softr, which I think was just in like 2023. So to go from having not heard about Softr to now a full expert working with tons of clients, I think it just shows the amount of growth that Softr has had, and it's been a huge addition and plus for my clients as well.
As a software expert, maybe you could say a couple words about our expert program for those
Yeah.
that are, we have a lot of builders in chat that have been building a lot with software, and maybe they want to think about joining the expert program. What would you say to them?
Yeah, so I actually can't say enough good things about it because I think many of us know how scrappy this, freelance or agency world can be. And I've shared this, online. I've shared this with you, JJ, that joining the expert program is actually like a massive turning point for me and my like growth. I was like at a place of like I looking for full-time jobs. I don't even know if I can do this anymore, all this stuff. And like getting that connection piece into Software's expert program that allowed me to have more access to more leads, people that were wanting to work with software already. I think it's a very natural place in the pipeline for people to find experts such as myself. So it's just led to a lot of growth and then a lot of connection and community as well, which is fun when you work by yourself and for yourself. You're like, oh, I have like swag. That's fun. You have swag for yourself. So it's fun to have that personal connection as well.
Awesome. Well, you've been a great expert. We appreciate all that you're doing for our program and for helping us out today with events like this. Let's get into talking about migrating the software databases. So if you're one of those people that are thinking, Software just launched this new database, I'm on Airtable, I'm on one of these other databases, what are the benefits of switching to migrating? And what are the things that I need to think about? Diana worked with me to put together this list, and we'll continue to talk about it all throughout the event. But we want to let you know some of the things that maybe might not or should factor into the decision making process. The first thing is legacy blocks. So if you're using an application, if you built an application that is heavily reliant on legacy blocks, let's think about like the list with image, the map blocks, all those sort of older blocks. Now, software will be updating legacy blocks, and we already have with our list, our table, our Kanban, all that kind of stuff. It's a work in progress. And with each update, they will be updated to the unified data source. However, some of the legacy blocks won't be updated, right? And those legacy blocks don't work with the new data sources, including DSV2 and software databases. So if you're heavily reliant on legacy blocks, it might not make sense for you to migrate to software databases at this time. What I would recommend you do is look at how you can update your application to the latest blocks. It will just give you a general increase in performance, stability, and the latest best practices across the board, even without updating your data source. But look at doing that. And then if there are some blocks that you're just like, man, I just need to have this block, contact our support and see if it's on the roadmap for us to update this block and when, and that could help guide you. All right. The next thing is while Software Databases has a ton of field types, it doesn't have every field type that Airtable has. One of the things that has been talked about in chat is duration field type. We don't have that yet. We are working on adding that. But Airtable has, it's been around for a long time. It's a very big company and has lots of field types. And so if you go to import something from Airtable and we don't have that field type in Software, that will require a little bit more of a manual integration, right? Most cases, say duration importing into Software, that would just be imported as like a text. But maybe that's not the exact thing that you want. So I would look at your database and say, all right, what are the field types that I'm using in this database? And then just make sure that, Software Database has those too, to make sure that that connection is going to go well. Diana, you want to take 3 and 4?
Yeah, for sure. So 3, rich text isn't yet supported in software databases. One of the things you just mentioned, JJ, I was thinking about is I have a couple of clients that we utilize rich text fields in Airtable for automated emails or automated SMS messaging, and to use the rich text as the formatting. So that might be a good thing to flag of like, okay, maybe, don't transfer over quite yet. If you're heavily relying on rich text fields for things.
And
Um,
I will add that
but
that's another thing that we will add in the future.
yeah,
We don't have it yet.
yeah, absolutely. And so then 4, you'll need to update the interface pages, update all the things, right? So you're transferring your data, you're transferring where your data lives, and Software is the interface is the visibility of or the visualization of that data. So changing it all. So you need to be mindful of your interface pages, your user groups, your visibility rules. And so you want to be really mindful and methodical almost in your transition, especially if you have a larger application. You want to invest some more time in making sure you do that right.
Yeah. Generally, this is a easy switch, but it needs to
Right. Yeah.
happen,
Yeah.
and so like it's kind of like a find and replace kind of thing that you need to go through. The user groups, visibility rules, the pages, that takes a little bit more effort because you got to kind of go through and link all of those. And so it's like one of those things where, switching databases, it's not something you want to do on a regular basis. Like when identifying a database partner, it is something that you want to be with in the long haul. And I think our pricing is very competitive, the performance really competitive, how easy it is to use, but still the power of software databases. For example, I believe our database limit, the API limit, is 4 times greater that of Airtable's API limit. And so then that allows you to connect to your automation providers in a much significantly faster way, uh, a significantly faster way. And so there's a lot of things that go into it. And so we're just going to continue laying this all out here so you can make the best decision for your business. Last thing I'll say here is if you have a lot of automations in Airtable, there were some bases, like we use Airtable internally for our own stuff and have for a while. There were some bases that have so many Airtable automations that it would just take us a long time to rebuild those. And like we totally can. We can move those over to Zapier, make even softer workflows. But it's just going to take us a long time. And it's the pros and the cons of like, all right, am I going to invest this time, and that kind of thing. So if you're one of those folks, maybe just hold off or maybe wait until you and software workflows comes, et cetera, and it makes sense for you in that business capacity to switch those over. But yeah, that's another thing to consider.
Yeah. If I could just add to that, JJ, having been in the space since 2017, I really early Airtable user. Remember when they had like nothing? Yeah. So like I remember when they did not have um, native automations or anything, right? And so this type of transition in this industry is very common, where the platforms are always, improving, they're always changing, they're always shifting. And so that's something I always talk about with clients is there's always pros and cons. And so it's really about taking a look at your pros and your cons and seeing what's going to be the best fit for the specific applications that you have at this point in software's time.
Yeah. Well said. All right. So some of the things or reasons why software databases is good. Uh, Very strong performance. We talked about this earlier, but we built this as a scalable database. Some of the other providers like Google Sheets and others, like they're not built as a database. They're built as, a Sheets provider, et cetera. Software database was built as a database first on the same technology that all the leading infrastructure is built on for databases with the UI of an easy to use editor. So that's kind of our differentiator there. It's like, really easy to use editor, but built on a performant backend that could take you to millions and millions of records. Right now, there's actually no limit to how much you can put on Software databases. It's just a pricing thing right now. And if you haven't seen, one of our experts in the early days of testing Software databases uploaded 1 million records to Software databases, uploaded it and tested it. The upload worked and it tested well and it performed well with 1 million records there. We saw that video. We quickly put limits on it because we didn't want him doing that, or, for free, anyways. But it handles very well. I will say that, at the business tier, right now you can have 200,000 rows in your database and 1 million rows in your workspace, right? And so that's at the business tier. If you need more, then we could do a custom plan for that. Custom plan isn't expensive as it sounds, so don't be scared of that. And actually, Patrick, he's in support now. He runs our custom plans. So always feel free if you're like, hey, I need to submit a request. We need to go up to 1 million records, or we need to go up to 2 million records, etc. Check it out. You'll see it's very cost effective, even at scale. And it's something that still performs well at scale. We now have connections to Zapier, NAN, and Make, pre-built connectors to all those different platforms. And like I said before, our API is very performant, much more performant of the other providers that we work with as well. And so working with them is very performant as well. And it's easy to use either the public API of Software databases or the 3 integrations that we have. This allows you to take the data that you have in Software databases and just use it externally in many different ways. And then Diana, this last one you put specifically, you want to chat about it?
Yeah. So I know it's still kind of in progress, but one of the things as a developer working with many a platform and many a third-party automations and you name it, and there's more, that keep popping up. So each of those platforms, they sometimes read information differently. They write it differently. They can't read it this way, whatever it is. And so that's one of the things that I have been doing in Airtable is a lot of times I just go straight to the record ID because I'm like, I don't know what it's going to read or not read. And so I think that's something I found early on in starting one of my clients, brand new with this a Softr database is that I was still thinking in like, oh, I've got to find the record ID, the deepest, amount of data. And because it's in Softr, it was like, oh, we know what that record is because it's ours. And so it was a lot faster and simpler. I didn't have to go kind of 4 steps deeper to think about it so hard to make sure that it was connected correctly. So you can probably add a little more technical acumen to that as well. But from the builder side, it made sense, right? I was like, oh, it's Softr, so Softr knows what it is.
Yeah. I will also add on to that this means that when you're using Software databases, if you change a field name, your interface will not break anymore, right? Airtable users, we have been plagued with this for a long time because Airtable uses field names for their API. So if you change the field name, it breaks the connection going into Software. But now Software, we have learned from this. We built our databases to be around the IDs. So that way your fields will not break in Software if you change the name. So hopefully that is a thing that many of us will benefit from. I see
That's
a
worth
lot of,
like an hour call on its own. Of just
yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah, yeah. I'm looking in chat. I see a lot of, what's the word for it? Excitement around self-hosting. And I know that Patrick is handling that. Thank you for that, Patrick. It's still early for Software databases. I know that we've talked about eventually allowing you to spin up a database in your own region. I'm not sure self-hosting will be a thing, but I know region hosting will be. And Patrick has answered those already. So that's great. Otherwise, I think we're ready to get into this. Let me pull up something on my screen here. All right, so I'm going to drop this and I'm going to share screen with you now. And so I'm going to show this window right here. And so the first thing I have up right here is this inventory management, all right? And you could see that this is using Software databases, right? And so in the studio, you see how quick this data is loading? This is because it's on Software databases. And so Software databases doesn't just improve performance on your app, but it also improves it in Studio as well. And so as we go around different pages here, just generally everything is just lightning fast. And if we were actually to pull open this and see the preview of it, again, we'll see really, really fast speeds here. And it's the speeds that you would expect, and that's one of the biggest benefits of software databases is you just get these speeds app wide and in Studio, and it's a really big noticeable difference. So I'm really excited about that. We are continuing to invest in speeds. Of course, I've talked about this earlier. DSV2 will also make it more performant for your app. I'm not sure if it'll get this performant, but this is pretty cool too. So let me show you how you can use our Airtable migration feature. So I have a database right here in Airtable, right? And this is for the inventory management. And so I'm looking at this table and I got my users, my products, my sales orders, order items, purchase orders, purchase order items, and suppliers. And within this, we have, let's see, this is a currency field, description, image. We have a roll up here, units purchased, roll up. We have a lookup. We have formulas and some related fields. So there's a lot of different things going on into here, right? And so now what we want to do is we want to import this database into Softr. And so I have a Softr database right here. And what I'm going to do is I click here and I can see a couple different options here. So the first one is import from CSV. So we can import from CSV, which means that you can go to Airtable, Google Sheets, any of your database providers and do CSV import. However, there's a lot of problems with CSV import, mostly around connections between tables. With CSV import, you need to upload one table at a time. And that makes it really hard to have those linked records, those rollups of those linked fields come together. So there is some problematic stuff there. Also, right now with CSV import, whenever you import with CSV, it gets added to a new table automatically. Now, we will be improving that in the next week or two, where if you want to import to CSV, it could be added to the existing table. So that's really cool, but it's still a limitation there, right? Anything else you want to say on CSV, Diana?
Um, I think so. I did like a couple before the Airtable one was live. And like generally it worked well, worked as expected. I think one thing that you're about to go into about the Airtable import that I've worked with clients in Airtable, and I'm going to speak about Airtable a lot because that's my primary database of use. I use a little bit of Smart Suite, but um, one of the issues my clients have had with CSV with Airtable is because of that record ID, hierarchy that you mentioned earlier. So they would try to upload a CSV and said, it's not giving me the names like it is in my other linked records. I've got all these like record ID, something, blah, blah, blah. What is all this? And I would have to explain to them like, oh, it's because you can copy paste it in and it will read your name. But if you try to CSV upload it, it's just going to pop in a record ID. So I think that's a huge, huge perk of the import that it will take that, cognitive load off of you and it just like lightning fast pops it all in. So I think that's
Yeah. Yeah, great. So that's our CSV. I will also add that, of course, you can do a blank table. This will be coming soon if it's not already there. We've had access to it for a bit now, but being able to create your tables with AI, that will be coming. And then I'm going to demo this to you, but I also want to show that, we will also be having an import from Google Sheets and SQL option as well, should those be of interest to you. But for now, let's go with import from Airtable. And now we need to go and pick our the one that we want to import. And so this one is going to be inventory management by Softr SD demo. There it is. It's the same one. And now we're going to start this import. And this is a really good process. It's not perfect, but it's really, really good. All right. And so even though we have the migration feature, it's not magic. There is additional work to be done. We want to set proper expectations here. And so once this finishes in a couple minutes, the next thing that we'll do is we'll validate that everything came through, right? We'll double check our lookups. We'll double check our rollups. We'll see if anything didn't come through properly. If so, we'll work to fix that. And then we'll open up interfaces and start connecting it. All right. So answer a question here. And so Mark has a question. Let's answer it live. So should I be careful when importing a huge Airtable database, limitations, etc.? Yes. When you're updating and changing a lot of data, yes. We haven't talked about this yet, Diana, but there are two recommendations that we suggest that you do before you even get to this process is duplicate your database and duplicate your app. We suggest, actually, don't say it. I'll say it. We suggest that if you're trying this out and you want to see how it goes, duplicate your database, duplicate your app, and then do this migration into it and see how that works. Connect that, see if it's worth it for you, and then you can make that switch and whatnot. So for Oliver, what happens to the duration field types? So if we import things that Airtable doesn't have, we just default to text right now. So it's not like they're discarded, but they're just not formatted maybe properly in that way. So yeah, make sure that we're duplicating. My kids love that song, Florian. Who let the dogs out?
No.
Yeah. Duplicate your app, duplicate your database, test it all out in a safe way, see how it goes for you, and that will give you a lot of confidence going into the production. All right. So we see here that we'll go through here and we'll see our users came in nicely. Our products, we're looking over here, and we see that we have our formulas came in, our sales items, our purchase items. However, it looks like our roll-ups maybe didn't come in this way. So we go over to sales, wait, products, is it true? Total revenue, total cost, total revenue, total cost. Yeah, so you were right here, actually, Diana, about roll-ups not working quite yet in this way. And so in this case, what we could do is we can go relink and recreate these roll-ups, right? And do it that way and update them because we do have roll-ups, but for some reason they didn't come up in like this. But that's looking good. Otherwise, we keep going through and just double checking this data, the formatting. Again, this would be, I believe, a roll up there. I'd have to compare and contrast, but linked relations are coming through. So, with one click, we got just about all of our data over here, and it's looking pretty great. Can we allow users to select the field types before it loads as a text field? What do you mean by this?
I imagine they maybe mean like mapping the fields before. I've done that in like CSV loads or things where it's like, click this field, this will be this field. I don't know on the technical side, JJ, but I know on the user side, that might trip some newer users up or take a little bit more time. But not a bad idea for potential.
Gotcha. All right, cool. So we have this database here. We have switched it over. Now I want to go back into Software Studio here, and I want to show you what it would look like to do this switch. Now I'm going to go back into my apps real quick, see if I can find inventory. Let's see. That was a legacy. Let's see if this is still on Airtable. It is. Okay, great. So I have this inventory management app. Am I going to break anything? Demo app. I should be good. So now we want to start switching this over, right? And so over here, I see that I have my source of Airtable and its products. And so now I'm going to go into Software Database. I'm going to do SD migration, and I'm going to be products. And then we're going to auto map as much as possible. And there it is. It auto maps nicely. We could double check that everything came in here just to be safe. And we didn't have any, we did have a conditional field here, which is a sort option. And so we could choose to update the sort how we want to. Let's say maybe something like that. And so we can update that sort. And so now what we need to do is kind of go through each of these tables. Another thing that I like to do is, let's say I have a conditional filter. Let's see if I have one that I can pick here. What I would say is, once we have the conditional filter, I could take a screenshot of it. And then when I go to replace it, reference that screenshot to see or remember the exact filter that I had. Or if you have a duplicated app, you put up the duplicated app side by side. And so my Airtable version of app is right there, and my software database is there, and then you have that live example side by side.
Yeah, that's definitely what I recommend and have been trying to do as well, because I recommend that honestly for any data change that we make for clients. And so whether it's from a different database to another, whether it's going from, testing to live, having that duplicate in its original instance before you've changed anything will really help you in the long run to make sure you've got all of the the pieces you had initially, that you've got it there again. And so that's definitely what I've been doing, is both the data validation of it, like you just said, and then especially the interface piece of just pulling them up side by side, split view, and saying, okay, here's my Airtable one, here's my Softr one, so I don't miss anything. And you can just kind of quickly. I started with the screenshots and I said, forget it, or we'll just do it side by side. So
Yeah. Yeah, this is the Airtable version of the app. I did want to show you just the speed differences. So that's Software databases. And then if we open up charts and the others, I guess that's still not terrible. But if we look at the grid, you'll see just a noticeable increase in speed across the app with the Software database compared to Airtable, which this is. And so if we continue on here, let's switch. Let's see. Graphs, maybe I'm getting myself into something too much here. I'll stay on sales and I'll do another source here. And so I'll go software database and then inventory management. And then I believe there were sales orders. I didn't double check well enough to look. Sales orders. Let's see, I think that should be fine and we'll get rid of that. And so, yeah, we could start switching all these over. But now let's look at some of the top level things. So if we go into users here and we go into our user groups, now we'll start to see things like, well, we actually haven't switched it over at the user level. But so when we do that, when we go to users, and now we still use an Airtable here, right? And so what we'll need to do is remove the data source connection from Airtable, which I can do. And then from there, we now need to sync it to our new software databases, the migration, at our users table. And if you haven't seen yet already, I'll just do a quick shout out to these new features that we have launched here. This allows you to better figure out what happens when you have a new user or you delete a user, and if it's synced or not synced in software databases. And more specifically, you can add sync rules of who should be synced or not synced in your software databases, especially with software counting its users. This allows you to have like archive users no longer count towards that user limit by setting up the restrictions there. So shout out to that. And then we just need to complete our mapping process here. And everything is the same. So we're just doing it the same, and then we'll save and sync, and then everything will come back in. And so this starts to move over to software databases now. Now this will allow us to go back into our user groups, and we'll see that this has changed. But all we need to do is just go back to role, includes exactly warehouse manager, right? And update them that way. So not a huge thing, but it is different. And it is something that we need to manage here. Sales manager, so we've updated there. If we have any data restrictions, we also need to go into those data restrictions and adjust these accordingly. If we go back into our interface here and we have permissions on visibility, which we didn't at that level, I think we're okay there. Checking our visibility permissions there. Those are good, but if we had any visibility permissions there, we want to update those. If we have, let's get into our conditional filters. If we have conditional filters anywhere, let's see. We'll need to update our conditional filters. And so this will need to be updated to software databases, and then we'll need to update the filters to go along with it. And so generally, there's a good bit that needs to be updated, but it does go by quick. I'll pull up a little checklist here that we could share with you after the fact. And it kind of talks about, the do's and the don'ts. So duplicate your app, handle lookups and rollup fields carefully. Let's make sure that, we identify which those ones are before we migrate, double check them after migrating. Here's a couple good ones. Diana, do you want to bring these to our attention?
yeah, for sure. So you wanted to think about the Airtable native fields as well. So there's some things we've gotten used to, especially if you're pulling from Airtable. I know we had at least one Smart Suite user in the chat, and I think that's maybe coming later in the roadmap. I'm not sure, JJ, but when you're thinking especially about Airtable native records or fields, that created time, created by, those fields are actually field types inside Airtable. So if you're not using the formula itself, you're using the native field. It's not going to transfer exactly, right? Because it was created then. Just like lots of things you can think about if you're automating user flows or things based on created time, probably going to want to create a duplicate field to say, okay, this is the created time when it was created in Airtable. And then here's our kind of like transition point. Now here's the new created field times in software databases as well. So just kind of looking at your data as a whole and thinking about as it pertains to all of your workflows and your user flows, to make sure you're kind of, grabbing all those little things as well.
Let me put that link in chat so anyone can now access this. The do's and don'ts. We'll also add it to our documentation as well. But great call outs there on these built-in fields. Software also has those built-in fields, but they just might need you to change them a little bit to account for those. After migrating, some of the things we've already looked at: remap your data, switch data sources at the block level, at the user level, at the user group level. Awesome. Update user settings, review visibility settings, and some of the benefits, as we've already talked about. It's a really performant database that's easy to use. It's not intimidating. It's very fair pricing. It scales really nicely at scale, not only from a performance but a cost perspective too. And then this will unlock so many more things for you too. Like, we're going to continue to build on this infrastructure for software databases and DSB2. And so all of our new features will be on there, including Ask AI, inline editing, all that kind of stuff. And, soon, for those that haven't seen it yet, building in Softr, it's coming together in terms of interface, data, workflows will be here soon. And it'll be allow you to have one subscription to manage data, interface, and workflows. And then Forms is coming as a standalone product too. And so have, access to entire suite of app building, automations, databasing, forms, everything you need to power the internal tools for your business will be there. So we hope to stay the hero, Noon. That's our goal. We have a small team, but our team works really hard, is really impactful, and is making huge progress each day. So for those that want to be participate in our workflows beta, it is now open for private beta, meaning on the form today, the community forum, I listed a place where you can go and submit that you want to be a private beta tester. We will start to allow people to come in to test workflows in the coming week. And then we're going to launch it generally next month. And once we have workflows, it will be able to complement software databases very similar to Airtable automations does. We'll bring that together really nicely too. And another thing that I just love about workflows is, like some of the things that in Softr of like, you click this button and then you want to show a loading screen and then you want to hit an API call, get the data, and then create a new linked record for that and then navigate them to the next page will become possible with native workflows in Softr, allowing you to build really a lot more complex interfaces connected to your data, your internal workflows, your interface, etc. So workflows is really going to expand the product. Software database is already really impactful. The product, it's very performant. We're having a lot of folks really find a lot of success with it. Diana, maybe speak to how you're thinking about it with your clients of software databases or not. I think that could also help put a perspective on, when it might make sense to change or switch, or maybe not yet, but soon kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry about the dog earlier. Everyone who works with me also gets to work with my dog Cooper. So it's a fun ride over here. Yeah, so I've had a lot of my new clients, like new to Softr, are super excited about this idea of being able to stay in one place. I know being in the no code space, especially, platform mayhem can get a little crazy at some point. So it's like, well, yeah, we need that for that. We need that for that. And clients can get really overburdened by that. So I think for long term, this is huge, both for new clients and existing clients. Some of my existing clients, their apps are just massive. And so it does just go back to that kind of pro and con. But I also think about that all the time with my clients where there's plenty of databases I built in Airtable that like I would love to rebuild. So because what we're doing now is so different than what we started with. So in some ways it could be a potential opportunity, especially if you are working with clients, those in the chat of, hey, we've got this opportunity, instead of having, not necessarily rebuild it from scratch, but like, let's go back to the drawing board. It's like, are these skills working for us? Like, is this working? Is it not? Can create some dialogue and opportunity there for enhancement of your databases as you're doing it. And so I think a lot of my new clients definitely are coming in looking for that one-stop shop. My kind of longer term clients will probably be a little more cautious, take a little bit more time, but also just pros and cons for them of what's highest priority to them. And then if I can just speak really quick to how I've been approaching the migration process, is I very much think like from a top level down. And so that's where a lot of the stuff from the checklist comes from, is kind of do's and don'ts of tips and tricks I have found in the migration process. But I'll definitely just say like leverage the user groups. Like I think that if you're already leveraging user groups, that's going to take a ton of time off of the migration, because just like JJ showed, the only thing you have to change is the conditions that go to that user group. The visibility permissions that are connected to the user groups themselves, those stay the same. And so I think leveraging those like hierarchy user permissions is
It's just
super
best
helpful.
practices too.
Say it again, sorry.
And it's just best practices to get into
Yes,
that
that too.
way of it as well, for many reasons outside of
Yes.
migration. Yeah.
Nobody wants to be like, here's this one,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
fine.
for every time, yeah.
No,
Awesome. Well, thank you all for a lively chat today. Hopefully, this was really helpful in terms of helping you think about software databases when it makes sense for you. It is a really great product. I know I only build with software databases now, because I just see the performance in everything that I use, and it feels really, really good. So I'm excited to have this. I hope you guys are too. Again, we're going to still continue to invest in all of our other data sources. We want to make sure that we continue to provide a fantastic experience for you, whether it's on software databases or not. As long as you're using interfaces, that will be great. Or workflows. Workflows is also going to support and run with other providers too. Workflows has access to Slack and all those other things, and Airtable and whatnot. And so, again, we're building a product not to close you in here, but to be open to everything and to meet you where your data is, your workflows are, all that kind of stuff, and bring it together to be the best for you. So if you want to be a part of our workflows beta, check it out on our community forum. I will post this video on our Software YouTube page after the fact. If you want to work with Diana, you can find her on our Software Experts directory page. You can reach out to her there and you can get some consulting or help from her there. Otherwise, you have the checklist. Enjoy that. If you have any questions about migration, let us know. Thank you for being here. Diana, thank you for your time. It was wonderful doing this event with you today. And thank you to Patrick for helping us in the chat all along the way.